The gunshot shattered the silence of the downtown penthouse at exactly 2:47 p.m. Sofia Martinez's hand froze mid-motion, the crystal vase she'd been dusting slipping from her fingers. It hit the marble floor with a crack that echoed through the vast space, water spreading across pristine white tiles like blood. Her heart hammered against her ribs as heavy footsteps approached from the hallway, deliberate and unhurried. She should run. Every survival instinct screamed at her to bolt for the service elevator, to disappear before whoever fired that shot discovered the cleaning woman who wasn't supposed to be here today. But her legs had turned to lead, rooted to the floor as a shadow fell across the doorway. Jin Park appeared, a gun hanging loosely in his right hand, his white dress shirt splattered with crimson. His eyes, dark and lethal, locked onto hers with an intensity that made her breathing stop. For 3 seconds, that felt like hours. Neither of them moved. Then his gaze dropped to her face, specifically to the fresh gash above her eyebrow, still seeping blood through the hastily applied butterfly bandages. The split lip she'd tried to hide with concealer. The purple shadow of a handprint on her throat that no amount of makeup could fully cover. Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the ice. "Who did this to you?" His voice was quiet, controlled, but underneath it Sofia heard something ancient and volcanic. The same tone, she imagined, he used before pulling that trigger in the other room. "Nobody, Mr. Park." The lie came automatically, a survival reflex honed over 29 years of making herself small. "I should go. I wasn't supposed to be here today. I can come back tomorrow." "Don't." He moved closer, and Sofia's body betrayed her, flinching backward, even as her mind commanded her to stay still. That involuntary retreat, that muscle memory of fear, made Jin Park stop mid-stride. His jaw clenched. He set the gun on the marble counter with a soft click that somehow sounded louder than the earlier gunshot. When he raised his hands, palms out, it was the first time Sofia had ever seen him look uncertain. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, and she believed him, which was the most dangerous thing of all, because Jin Park was exactly who everyone said he was, the ghost of New York's Koreatown. The man who controlled everything from the Hudson to the East River, whose legitimate tech empire was just the glossy surface of something far deeper and darker. She'd cleaned his penthouse every Tuesday and Friday for 8 months, moving through his space like wind, present but never acknowledged. Until now. "Tell me who did this." It wasn't a request this time. He moved to the kitchen, grabbed a clean towel and ice from the freezer, approached her with the careful movements of someone trying not to spook a wounded animal. "Please." That last word undid her. Sofia took the ice pack he offered, pressed it against her throbbing eyebrow, and felt something crack inside her chest. When was the last time anyone had said please to her? "It doesn't matter," she whispered. "It became my concern the moment you walked into my home looking like someone used you as a punching bag." His eyes traced the damage to her face with a focus that made her skin burn. "Boyfriend?" "Ex." "Name?" "Mr. Park." "Jin." He said it softly, like an offering. "My name is Jin, and I need you to tell me who did this so I can make sure it never happens again." Through the windows behind him, Manhattan stretched out like a kingdom, all steel and glass and power. His kingdom. And here she was, a woman who cleaned toilets and scrubbed floors, standing in his palace wearing a uniform that smelled like bleach and desperation, bleeding on his perfect white tiles. "Why do you care?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "I'm nobody. I'm just the woman who cleans your apartment." Something flickered across Jin's face, an emotion she couldn't name. He reached toward her face, then stopped, his hand hovering inches from her skin. Waiting. "You bring jasmine," he said quietly. "Every Tuesday you bring jasmine flowers and put them in that blue vase by the window because you think I don't notice. You reorganize my bookshelves by color even though I keep them alphabetical. You leave the bedroom window open exactly 4 inches because you figured out I sleep better with fresh air. His hand still hovered near her face, close enough that she could feel its warmth. You sing when you work. Old songs in Spanish, and sometimes you cry during the sad ones, but you never stop singing. You're not nobody, Sofia. You're the only real thing in this entire apartment. The way he said her name, careful and precise, like something that mattered, made her eyes burn. She wanted to pull away, to maintain the professional distance that kept her safe. Instead, she found herself leaning into that hovering hand, giving permission she'd never given anyone. His fingers touched her face with devastating gentleness, tracing the edge of the butterfly bandages. The contact sent electricity through her entire body, warmth flooding places that had been cold for so long she'd forgotten what heat felt like. "His name is Carlos," she heard herself say. "My ex. He's been gone for 3 years, came back last week demanding money, said I owed him for the years we were together." Her voice cracked. "He got angry when I said no." Jin's hand stilled against her cheek. "Where is he now?" "I don't know. He said he'd be back. Said he knows where I work, where my daughter goes to school, said—" The words caught in her throat. "He said accidents happen to little girls." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Jin's face became a mask of ice and fury, his eyes turning into something inhuman. When he pulled out his phone and spoke rapid Korean, his voice was sharp enough to cut steel. Sofia grabbed his arm without thinking. "What are you doing?" "Handling it." He pocketed the phone, his expression still carved from stone. "Carlos Rodriguez won't be a problem after today." "Jin, no." Panic clawed up her throat. "Whatever you're planning, you can't. I can, and I will." His hand covered hers where it gripped his arm. "Men like Carlos understand one language, Sofia. I speak it fluently." "The gunshot," she said suddenly, remembering. "In the other room. What did you—" "Business." He cut her off, his tone making it clear the subject was closed. "Nothing you need to worry about." But she was worried. Terrified, actually. Because this man, this beautiful, dangerous man, was looking at her like she mattered. And in 8 months of invisible cleaning, she'd learned enough about Jin Park to know that the things he cared about tended to end up protected by any means necessary, even violent ones. "I should go," she said, trying to step back. His hand tightened on hers, not painful but firm. "Stay." His thumb stroked across her knuckles. "Have dinner with me. Tell me about your daughter, about why you work 4 houses every day, about what makes you sing those sad songs." "I can't." But she didn't move away. Couldn't. "Why?" "Because you're Jin Park." She gestured around the penthouse with her free hand, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows, the art that probably cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime, the pristine luxury of his world. "And I'm the cleaning lady who just bled on your floor." His grip shifted, pulling her closer until they were breathing the same air. "You're the woman who brings light into this tomb I've built. You're the reason I started coming home early on Tuesdays and Fridays. You're—" He stopped, something vulnerable crossing his features. "You're the first person I've wanted to know in 10 years. Sofia's phone buzzed in her pocket. Her daughter's school. She pulled away, and Jin let her go this time, but the loss of contact felt like losing warmth in winter. "I have to get Isabella," she said, already backing toward the door. "I'm sorry about the vase. I'll pay for it." "Sofia." His voice stopped her at the threshold. "This isn't over." It sounded like a promise and a threat, and as she fled to the service elevator, Sofia's hand trembled against the butterfly bandages on her face. She could still feel the ghost of his touch, gentle and possessive, and she knew with absolute certainty that everything had just changed. The elevator doors closed, but not before she saw Jin pick up his phone again, his face hard and determined. Making arrangements, solving her problem the only way he knew how, with violence. That night, Sofia stood in her cramped Bronx apartment, watching Isabella sleep, and tried not to think about the way Jin had looked at her, like she was precious, like she was worth protecting, like she was visible. Her phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "He won't bother you again, ever, Jin." Another message followed immediately. "Dinner tomorrow, my restaurant in Koreatown, 7 p.m., say yes." Sofia stared at the screen, her thumb hovering over the keyboard. She should say no, should maintain the boundary between their worlds, should protect herself and Isabella from the dangerous gravity of Jin Park's orbit. But when she closed her eyes, she saw the way he'd touched her face, felt the way he'd said her name like a prayer. For 8 months, she'd been invisible. For 8 months, she'd been surviving instead of living. Maybe it was time to be seen. Her thumb moved across the screen. Yes. The response came instantly. "I'll send a car. Wear something that makes you feel beautiful." Sofia looked at her closet, mentally cataloging the handful of worn dresses and second-hand outfits that comprised her wardrobe. Nothing that would fit in Jin's world. Nothing that would make her feel anything but out of place. Another text. "I don't care what you wear. You could show up in your work uniform, and you'd still be the most beautiful woman in the room." Despite everything, despite the fear and the uncertainty and the absolute insanity of what she was agreeing to, Sofia smiled. Then her door shook with violent pounding. "Sofia, open this door. I know you're in there." Carlos's voice, slurred and furious, made her blood turn to ice. She grabbed her phone, ready to call 911, but Carlos was already kicking at the door, the old wood splintering under the assault. "You think you can send some Korean thug after me? You think I'm scared? I'll kill you, you bitch! I'll kill that brat of yours!" The door gave way with a crack. Carlos stumbled in, drunk or high or both, his face twisted with rage. Sofia positioned herself between him and Isabella's bedroom, her body a shield. "Get out," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I called the police." "Lying whore." He lurched toward her, and Sofia saw the knife in his hand a second too late. She screamed. The blade never reached her. The window exploded inward in a shower of glass, and a figure in black tackled Carlos to the ground with brutal efficiency. 3 more men poured through the door, moving with military precision. Within seconds, Carlos was face down on the floor, zip-tied and bleeding from a broken nose. Jin Park stepped through the shattered window like an avenging angel, glass crunching under his expensive shoes. He wasn't even breathing hard. His eyes found Sofia, scanned her for injuries with clinical precision, then softened when he confirmed she was unharmed. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice deadly calm. She shook her head, unable to speak. Jin turned his attention to Carlos, crouching beside the prone man with casual menace. "I gave you a warning 3 hours ago. Told you to leave the city, forget Sofia Rodriguez existed, start a new life somewhere far away." He tilted his head. "You chose not to listen." "Fuck you," Carlos spat. "You can't—" Jin's hand shot out, gripping Carlos's throat. "I can do anything I want, but since Sofia's daughter is sleeping in the next room, I'm going to be civilized about this." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried through the entire apartment. "You're going to disappear. My people will make sure of it. And if you ever come within 100 miles of this woman or her child again, they won't find enough of you to identify." He released Carlos and stood, gesturing to his men. They hauled the struggling man to his feet and dragged him toward the door. "Wait," Sofia found her voice. "You can't just— Jin, this is kidnapping. This is justice." He turned to face her, and his expression was terrible in its intensity. "He threatened your daughter, Sofia. He came here with a knife. What did you think I would do? Ask him politely to leave you alone?" "I thought—" She didn't know what she thought. Her hands were shaking, adrenaline crashing through her system. I thought you'd call the police. The police would arrest him. He'd be out in 48 hours. Back here in 72. Jin closed the distance between them, his hands gentle on her shoulders even as his voice remained hard. I don't take chances with things that matter to me. And you matter, Sofia. You and Isabella both. You barely know us. I know enough. His thumb brushed her cheek, wiping away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. I know you're strong and brave, and you've been fighting alone for too long. I know your daughter deserves to sleep without fear. I know... His voice caught. I know I can't let anyone hurt you. Not ever again. A small voice interrupted. Mama? They both turned to see Isabella in her doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit, eyes wide with confusion and fear. Jin moved before Sofia could react, dropping to one knee in front of Isabella with the fluid grace of someone accustomed to making himself less threatening. The contrast was jarring. This man who'd just orchestrated a kidnapping, now softening his entire demeanor for a frightened 7-year-old. Hi, Isabella, he said gently. I'm Jin. I'm a friend of your mom's. Isabella's grip tightened on her rabbit. Why is the window broken? There was an accident, Sofia said quickly, moving to her daughter's side. Everything's okay now, baby. That man was yelling. Isabella's voice trembled. He said bad words. Jin's jaw tightened, but his voice remained soft. He won't be back. I promise you that. You're safe now. How do you know? Isabella asked with the brutal honesty of children. Because I protect the people I care about. Jin glanced at Sofia, then back to Isabella. And I care about your mom very much. Isabella studied him with those two old eyes. The same eyes that had seen too much for 7 years. Are you the reason Mama was smiling at her phone? Sofia felt her face flush. Jin's expression transformed, a genuine smile breaking through the ice. I hope so. She doesn't smile much, Isabella continued, apparently deciding Jin was trustworthy. Not since Carlos left. I was happy when he left, but Mama was sad. I wasn't sad he left, Sofia said softly, crouching beside her daughter. I was sad about other things, but I'm not sad anymore, okay? Isabella looked between them, then nodded solemnly. Okay. She yawned. Can I go back to bed? Of course, baby. Sofia kissed her forehead, watching as Isabella trudged back to her room, apparently unfazed by the night's drama. The resilience of children never ceased to amaze her. When Isabella's door closed, Sofia turned to find Jin already on his phone, speaking rapid Korean. Within minutes, a crew arrived to board up the window and clean the glass. They worked with silent efficiency, and Sofia realized this wasn't the first time Jin had needed to make evidence of violence disappear. Come with me, Jin said when the crew finished. Both of you. You can't stay here tonight. We're fine. Sofia. He stepped close, his hands framing her face with infinite care. Your door is broken. Your window is shattered. Carlos knows where you live. You're not fine, and you're not staying here. I can't just leave. I have work tomorrow. Isabella has school. I'll have you back in time for both. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Please. Let me keep you safe for one night. Let me... He stopped, something raw flashing across his face. Let me sleep knowing you're not in danger. The vulnerability in those words broke her resistance. One night. One night, he agreed. But they both knew it was a lie. Jin's second apartment, because of course he had multiple properties, was in a secure building in Manhattan. Smaller than the penthouse, but still luxurious beyond anything Sofia had experienced. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park, furniture that looked like art, a kitchen with appliances she didn't recognize. Isabella fell asleep immediately in the guest room, exhausted from the night's excitement. Sofia stood at the window, watching the city lights, feeling like she'd stepped into someone else's life. Hungry? Jin appeared beside her with 2 glasses of wine. Starving, she admitted, taking the glass. I forgot to eat dinner. You forget to eat a lot, he observed. I've noticed. You lose weight every month. Sofia stared at him. You've been watching me that closely? I notice everything about you. He moved to the kitchen, started pulling out ingredients with the confidence of someone who actually knew how to cook. Sit. Let me feed you. She should protest, should maintain some dignity, some boundary. Instead, she sat at the marble island and watched Jin Park, Korean mob boss and tech billionaire, make her a meal at 2 in the morning. How did you know to come tonight? She asked. To my apartment? I had someone watching your building after I warned Carlos off. Jin cracked eggs into a pan with practiced ease. The moment he showed up, I got the call. You've been having me watched. Protected, he corrected. There's a difference. Is there? She took a long sip of wine. Because from where I'm sitting, it feels like you're controlling my life. Jin's hands stilled over the stove. When he turned to face her, his expression was carefully neutral. Do you want me to stop? Did she? Sofia thought about Carlos's knife, about the fear that had been her constant companion for weeks, about sleeping tonight knowing her daughter was safe. I don't know, she said honestly. Part of me is grateful. Part of me is terrified of you. Good. He turned back to the food. You should be terrified. I'm a dangerous man, Sofia. I've done things that would make you run screaming. He plated the eggs, added toast and fruit, set it before her with the care of someone handling something precious. But I would never hurt you. Never. That's the one thing you don't have to fear. Sofia picked up her fork, realized her hands were shaking. What happened in your penthouse today? The gunshot? Business. That's not an answer. Jin leaned against the counter, studying her. A man tried to betray me, steal from my organization, put my people at risk. I handled it. Handled it. Her stomach turned. You killed him. Yes. The casual admission hung between them. Jin didn't look away, didn't try to soften it. This was who he was, what he was. A man who solved problems with violence. I should be horrified, Sofia whispered, but you're not. He moved closer, reading her face like a book. You're trying to be, but you're not. Want to know why? Why? Because you've lived in a world where nice guys finish last, where playing by the rules gets you nothing but pain. You've learned that sometimes violence is the only language that works. His hand covered hers. I see you, Sofia. The real you, not the version you show the world. And I know you understand why I do what I do. He was right, and that terrified her more than anything else, because she did understand. In a sick, twisted way, she was grateful he'd killed that man in his penthouse, grateful he'd made Carlos disappear, grateful for the brutal efficiency with which he protected what was his. When had she become someone who could accept murder? Eat, Jin said softly, breaking the moment. We can talk philosophy later. They ate in comfortable silence, and Sofia realized how natural this felt. Sitting in his kitchen at 2 a.m., sharing food and wine, existing in each other's space like they'd been doing this for years instead of hours. Tell me about Isabella, Jin said eventually. She's incredible, by the way. That directness, that strength, she gets it from you. Sofia smiled despite everything. She's my whole world. Everything I do is for her. I know, it shows. He refilled her wine. Carlos is her father? Biologically, but he was never a father. Left when I was 5 months pregnant, came back occasionally to take money or break things. She stared into her glass. I kept hoping he'd change, that he'd want to know his daughter. Took me years to realize some people are incapable of love. He never deserved either of you." The fierce protectiveness in Jin's voice made her look up. He was watching her with that intensity again, like she was a puzzle he was determined to solve. "Why me?" she asked. "You could have anyone, Jin. Models, heiresses, women who belong in your world. Why the cleaning lady with a kid and an abusive ex? Because you're real." He moved around the island, turned her bar stool to face him, stepped between her knees. "Because you bring jasmine flowers to brighten someone else's day. Because you sing sad songs and cry but keep singing anyway. Because you're raising an incredible daughter on your own and still find the strength to smile." His hands settled on her waist. "Because when I look at you, I see home." Sofia's breath caught. "We barely know each other." "Then let me know you." He bent until their foreheads touched. "Let me take you to dinner tomorrow. Let me meet Isabella properly. Let me prove I can be more than the monster you've heard about." "What if you can't?" she whispered. "What if the monster is all there is?" "Then you'll leave, and I'll let you go." His lips brushed her temple. "But Sofia, I'm betting everything that there's more, that you've already seen it, that you're brave enough to give this a chance." She should say no, should protect herself and Isabella from the inevitable heartbreak, should run before she fell any deeper. Instead, she tilted her face up and kissed him. Jin froze for a heartbeat, then responded with a hunger that stole her breath. His hands tightened on her waist, pulling her closer as she wrapped her arms around his neck. The kiss was electric, desperate, full of everything they weren't saying. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Jin's eyes had gone dark with want. "Tomorrow," he said roughly. "Dinner. Say yes properly this time." "Yes," she whispered. He kissed her again, softer now, reverent. "Sleep. Guest room is yours. I'll be across the hall if you need anything." "Jin, sleep, Sofia. We have time." But as she lay in the unfamiliar bed an hour later, staring at the ceiling, Sofia wondered if they did have time. Because men like Jin Park lived dangerous lives, and people who got close to them had a habit of getting hurt. The next morning arrived too quickly. Sofia woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the sound of Isabella's laughter. She followed the sound to the kitchen and stopped dead in the doorway. Jin was making pancakes while Isabella sat on the counter, chattering away about her favorite books. He was listening with apparent fascination, asking questions, engaging with her daughter like she was the most interesting person in the world. "And then the princess saves herself," Isabella was saying. "She doesn't need the prince. She's got a sword." "Smart princess," Jin observed, flipping a pancake. "Princes are overrated anyway." "Mama says that too," Isabella giggled. "She says we don't need a man to be happy." "Your mama is very wise." Jin's eyes found Sofia in the doorway, his expression softening. "Good morning." "Morning," she managed, feeling disoriented by the domesticity of the scene. "Mama, Jin makes pancakes shaped like animals. Look, this one's a turtle." Sofia moved closer, saw the pancake menagerie, felt something in her chest crack wide open. This man, this dangerous, violent man, was making her daughter animal pancakes. "Thank you," she said softly. Jin understood she wasn't just thanking him for breakfast. "Always?" They ate together, the three of them, and Sofia tried not to think about how right it felt, how natural, how easy it would be to get used to this. Her phone shattered the moment. Her supervisor at the cleaning agency, angry that Sofia had missed her morning appointment. She was fired, effective immediately. No second chances, no explanations accepted. Sofia felt the world tilt. That was $200 a week, gone. She had 3 other houses, but it wasn't enough. The math wouldn't work. They'd lose the apartment. She'd have to pull Isabella from school. "Hey," Jin's hand covered hers. "Breathe. What happened?" she told him, hating how her voice shook, hating that she was falling apart in front of him, proving she couldn't handle her own life. "Done," Jin said, pulling out his phone. "You're hired." "What?" "My company needs a facilities director, someone to oversee cleaning services for all our buildings, manage staff, set standards." He was already typing. "Salary is $120,000 a year, benefits included, start Monday." Sofia stared at him. "You can't just—" "I can, and I did." He looked up. "Unless you'd rather keep scrubbing toilets for minimum wage? That's not fair. Life's not fair." His expression hardened. "But I can make yours easier. Let me." "I don't want your charity. It's not charity, it's business." He set down his phone. "I need someone I trust managing my properties. Someone with your work ethic, your attention to detail. Someone who understands what it means to do a job right." His voice softened. "Let me help you, Sofia. Please." Isabella was watching them with interest. "Is Jin going to be your boss now, Mama?" Sofia didn't know what to say. "Think about it," Jin said. "Take the day. But Sofia, you're brilliant and capable, and you deserve better than what you've been settling for." Her phone rang again. Unknown number. She answered, and a woman's cold voice said, "Ms. Rodriguez, this is Detective Chen, NYPD. We need to talk about Carlos Rodriguez. He's filed a missing persons report, and you're listed as his last known contact." Sofia's blood turned to ice. She looked at Jin, saw his expression, shudder immediately. "I'll be right there," she said, and ended the call. The day had just gotten a lot more complicated. The police station smelled like coffee and desperation. Sofia sat in the gray interview room, hands clasped on the metal table, trying to ignore how Jin's presence in the hallway outside made every cop in the building nervous. He'd insisted on coming, had brought a lawyer, a sharp woman in an expensive suit who'd introduced herself as Grace Kim and told Sofia not to say anything without her approval. Detective Chen was a tired-looking woman in her 40s with intelligent eyes that missed nothing. She slid a photo across the table. Carlos, taken from a security camera, time-stamped from 2 nights ago. "When did you last see Mr. Rodriguez?" Sofia glanced at Grace, who nodded slightly. "He came to my apartment uninvited. Threatened me and my daughter. Broke down my door." "What time was this?" "Around 11 p.m. "And then what happened?" Sofia's mouth went dry. What could she say? That Jin Park's private army had kidnapped him? "He left." "He left." Detective Chen's tone suggested she knew Sofia was lying. "After breaking down your door and threatening you, he just left." "Yes." "Ms. Rodriguez, Carlos's phone last pinged near your building at 11:47 p.m. Then it went dead. His car was found abandoned 3 blocks away, driver's door open, keys still in the ignition." "And you're telling me he just left?" "I don't know what happened after he left my apartment," Sofia said carefully. Detective Chen leaned forward. "Are you aware that Jin Park has been under investigation for racketeering, money laundering, and suspected involvement in several disappearances over the past decade?" Grace's hand touched Sofia's arm in warning. "My client isn't responsible for Mr. Rodriguez's whereabouts, Detective. If he had a history of threatening her, perhaps he made enemies elsewhere. Convenient that those enemies showed up the same night Mr. Park entered her life." Chen's eyes narrowed. "Ms. Rodriguez, if you're being coerced or threatened, we can protect you." "I'm not being threatened." "Then you're being remarkably naive." Chen pulled out another photo, a body bag being loaded into a coroner's van. 3 people connected to Jin Park have died in the past year, accidents, supposedly. But we both know better, don't we? Sofia's stomach turned. The man in the penthouse, the gunshot. How many others? "Are we done here?" Grace asked coolly. "Unless you're charging my client with something?" Detective Chen held Sofia's gaze for a long moment. "We're done. For now." She slid a business card across the table. "When you're ready to tell the truth, call me, before you end up in one of those body bags." The warning echoed in Sofia's head as Grace escorted her out. Jin was waiting in the hallway, and the way he immediately moved to her side, one hand on her lower back, possessive and protective, made every cop in the vicinity take notice. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. "No." Sofia kept walking until they were outside, breathing in the cold November air like she'd been drowning. "Jin, what did you do to Carlos? I told you, he's not a problem anymore." "That's not an answer." She spun to face him. "The detective said people connected to you have died. Is Carlos dead? Did you kill him?" Jin's face was unreadable. "Would it change anything if I said yes?" "I don't know." Her voice broke. "I don't know who I am anymore. Yesterday I was grateful you made him disappear. Today the police are showing me body bags and I'm realizing what I've gotten myself into. Sofia, I have a daughter, Jin." The words came out sharp, desperate. "Isabella needs stability, safety, not a mother dating someone under investigation for murder. I would never let anything happen to her, to either of you." "You can't promise that." Sofia backed away. "You live in a world where people disappear, where gunshots in penthouses are just business, where the police know your name. What happens when your enemies decide to hurt you by hurting us?" Jin's jaw clenched. "That won't happen. You can't know that. I can know that I'll burn down anyone who tries." His voice turned to ice. "I can know that I have resources, people, power that most can't imagine. I can know that you and Isabella will be the most protected people in this city." "At what cost?" Sofia's eyes burned. "My soul? My daughter's innocence? How long before she asks why we have bodyguards? Why we can't go to the park without armed men following us?" "As long as it keeps her safe." "Safe?" Sofia laughed bitterly. "We were safe before you. Struggling, yes. Scared of Carlos, yes. But we had a life that made sense. Now I'm lying to police detectives and accepting six-figure jobs I'm not qualified for and kissing a man who might have blood on his hands." "I do have blood on my hands," Jin said flatly. "I've never pretended otherwise. But Sofia, look at me." He stepped closer, and despite everything, she couldn't look away. "Every drop of that blood protected something I built. Protected people who depend on me. I'm not a good man. I've never claimed to be. But I'm good to the people I love." "Love." The word hung between them. "Jin, we've known each other for less than 48 hours. I've been watching you for 8 months. His hand lifted to her face, that same hovering gesture, seeking permission. "I've been falling for you every Tuesday and Friday, watching you bring light into my empty life. The last 48 hours just made me brave enough to reach for you." Sofia closed her eyes, felt his hand finally touch her cheek, gentle and sure. "This is insane." "Completely." His thumb brushed away a tear she hadn't known she'd shed. "But I'm not letting you go. Not unless you tell me you don't feel this too." She wanted to lie. Wanted to protect herself and Isabella from the inevitable collision of their worlds. But when she opened her eyes and saw the vulnerability in Jin's face, the desperate hope that she wouldn't walk away, she couldn't do it. "I feel it," she whispered. "I'm terrified, but I feel it." Jin's forehead dropped to hers, his breath shuddering out in relief. "Then trust me. Give me a chance to prove I can keep you safe, that I can be what you need." "What about what Isabella needs? A stable home, a normal life." "She needs a mother who's happy, who's not working herself to death, who has someone to lean on." Jin pulled back to meet her eyes. "Let me be that someone. Let me be her someone too." Sofia thought about Isabella's face that morning, laughing over animal pancakes, about how Jin had listened to her chatter like it mattered. about the loneliness she'd carried for 7 years, suddenly feeling lighter. "Okay," she breathed. "But Jin, if anything happens to Isabella because of your world, I'll never forgive you. If anything happens to Isabella because of my world, I'll never forgive myself." He kissed her softly. "But it won't. I promise you that." Grace Kim cleared her throat, reminding them they weren't alone. "We should discuss legal strategy. Detective Chen is building a case, and Sofia's connection to you isn't helping." "Handle it," Jin said without taking his eyes off Sofia. "I intend to. But Sofia, you need to be prepared for more questions, more pressure. They'll try to use you to get to Jin." "They can try," Sofia said, surprised by the steel in her own voice. "But I don't know anything about Jin's business. I can't tell them what I don't know." Jin's smile was proud and possessive. Smart woman. The dinner that night was at a private room in Jin's restaurant, away from curious eyes. Isabella chattered excitedly about her day at school, oblivious to the tension. Sofia tried to focus on her daughter, on the incredible food, on anything except the bodyguards outside the door and the way every waiter looked at Jin like he was royalty. "Mama," Isabella said suddenly, "is Jin your boyfriend?" Sofia choked on her wine. Jin's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently. "Would that be okay?" Sofia asked carefully. "If he was?" Isabella considered this with 7-year-old seriousness. "Will he make you happy?" "I'll try my best," Jin said before Sofia could answer. "Your mama deserves to be very, very happy." "Then it's okay." Isabella turned to Jin. "But if you make her cry, I'll be mad at you." "That's fair," Jin said solemnly. "I'd be mad at me too." They finished dinner in comfortable warmth, and Sofia felt herself relaxing for the first time since the police station. Maybe this could work. Maybe... Her phone exploded with notifications. Text after text from numbers she didn't recognize. Photos. Her and Jin leaving the police station. Her and Jin at the restaurant, her apartment building, Isabella's school. The final message was from Carlos's number. "You think he can protect you? You're both dead. Your daughter first." Sofia's hands shook so badly she dropped the phone. Jin caught it, read the messages, and his face transformed into something inhuman. "Isabella, come here," he said calmly, lifting the confused child into his arms. "We're going to play a game, okay? We're going to go on an adventure." "What kind of adventure?" Isabella asked, picking up on the tension. "The fun kind." Jin's voice stayed light even as he fired off rapid texts with his free hand. "Sofia, we're leaving. Now." They were surrounded by bodyguards within seconds, ushered through a back kitchen and into a waiting SUV with bulletproof windows. Jin kept Isabella in his lap, distracting her with stories while Sofia's mind raced. Carlos was alive, had somehow escaped Jin's people, and now he was hunting them. They didn't go back to Jin's apartment. Instead, they drove for over an hour to a compound in Westchester, all high walls and sophisticated security, a fortress disguised as a mansion. "This is where you'll stay," Jin said, carrying a sleepy Isabella inside, "until I handle this." "Handle this how?" Sofia demanded once Isabella was settled in a bedroom. "Jin, he has people. He's watching us. How did he escape?" "I don't know yet." Jin's jaw was tight with fury. "But I will find out, and I will end this, permanently." "You're going to kill him?" "Yes." No hesitation. "He threatened Isabella. He's dead. He just doesn't know it yet." Sofia should be horrified, should argue. Instead, she said, "How long will it take?" Jin's eyes flashed with dark approval. 72 hours, maybe less. "Make it less." Sofia grabbed his shirt, pulled him close. "I want my daughter safe. I want to sleep without fear. I want—" Her voice cracked. "I want this nightmare over." "It will be." Jin kissed her hard, possessive. "Stay here. My people will keep you safe. And Sofia?" He pulled back to meet her eyes. "When this is done, move in with me. You and Isabella. Let me give you the life you deserve. Jin, think about it. No more struggling, no more fear. Just safety and happiness and a future. He kissed her again, softer. I love you. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I love you. And I'm going to prove I can be what you need. He was gone before she could respond, leaving her standing in the fortress with her sleeping daughter and the echo of words she'd never expected to hear. I love you. The next 3 days crawled by. Sofia and Isabella were prisoners in luxury, with every comfort, but no freedom. Jin called twice a day, his voice tight with stress, refusing to give details but promising it would be over soon. On the third night, Sofia woke to silence. Too much silence. She checked Isabella, still sleeping peacefully, then crept into the hallway. The bodyguards were gone. Her heart hammered as she moved through the empty mansion, finding door after door unguarded. Either Jin had pulled his people, or something had gone very, very wrong. She was reaching for her phone when a hand clamped over her mouth. Hello, Sofia. Carlos's breath was hot against her ear, his knife cold against her throat. Did you miss me?